Wassail Beautiful People. So, we're kind of looking at today Pick a Blood Echo, an ancestral songline. So, it's part of this series to do with cleaning up the astral. So, in the astral realm, where you go to enter the dream world, and it's kind of like an inherited palace that ancestors. There's a tiny fly, really tiny, and it keeps trying to get in my mouth. Please. It's there hovering near my mouth the whole time. So you have an ancestral palace, tower, space, which has been inhabited by your ancestors. It's like a bloodline inherited portal. The fly's really trying to get in my mouth. And there's an energy of the ancestors' memory of their life, of their loves, their joys, their traumas, their pleasures, all these different things. But they've left an echo of that there. And I had a really interesting dream the other day where I entered mine. I used the rune, the binding rune of Elven Light and Brom, which seems to be an access key to the astral. And you draw it on water 3 times and then you drink it. So I maybe should have thought about bringing that here and showing you. Maybe I'll include it somehow in the image. So when you're drawing it, you draw from the bottom upwards, and then you put in the stroke upwards and the dot, and then you put the semicircle at the bottom, and you do that 3 times and drink the water before sleep, and acknowledge that you would like access to the astral realm with memory, so that you can go in and work on an old story that's been left there, that's echoing down through your life and through your dreams and through your nightmares. So in my dream, I was in this place, and it was like everybody that was there, it was like a sort of a large house, hotel. There were beds in every room, as if that's where they've been lying down. Almost a sense of coffins, but they were beds. And everybody wanted something from me, and yet everybody was hiding things from me. So they all wanted something from me because, in truth, as the current living, when I enter there, it's my palace, but in their dimension, it's also still theirs. It's very complicated, but we have to clean them out of our present portal. They can have that portal in their time period. So they were being quite tricksterish, and they were telling me that, because I had a sense I knew my way around the whole area. I knew the compass of the place, and yet every time I tried to walk somewhere, I couldn't get there. And there was a huge moment when we were all exploring these wonderful staircases, but they went to all the wrong places. It's like they've left staircases that don't belong to your life, and as we go in to the dream world, we're walking up other people's staircases somehow. And eventually one of them, who was a young girl, because there were people of all ages, she said to me, oh look, the code's here, and it was on a balustrade at the foot of a staircase that wasn't really there. That's what I mean about them kind of shifting and playing with things. And it was marked, and she said you just have to kind of move the code to go up the right thing. She said now you can go up to where you want to go. And what was a staircase, as I went to climb it, was actually a ladder. And I just said, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing your games, you know. And so I woke myself from the dream because there was an energy of deceit. So I've been looking since at the humours. And if you don't know what the humours are, they're the old Greek word for body fluids. And so you had blood, you had black bile, you had yellow bile, and you had phlegm. It's not phlegm in the way we think of phlegm. It's more of a kind of mysterious energy that courses through our blood. So if you take blood and leave it in a glass vessel dish and watch what happens at the very bottom, if I get it the right way around, it turns into a black clot, which is the black bile. And then just above that, there's the red blood cells. And then above that, there's a line of the white blood cells. And then above that, there's an energy, there's a kind of a serum that's a yellow liquid. And so they are black bile, then blood, black bile being earth, then air, which is the blood, and then you have the white blood cells, which are representative of phlegm, which is water, and then the yellow on the top is fire. And they link to melancholy, sanguine, phlegmatic, and choleric. So they were old energies, and for a long time Galen linked them to the medical world, and then they were pushed away because it was decided that not necessarily that they were wrong, but Galen's ideas behind where they were created in the body were proven to be wrong. And so there was a sense that everything that Galen had said had to be wrong, and that's a little unfair. And they're also linked into alchemy with 4 colours, but I'm going to do a separate reading on that because it links into Mary the Jewess, and I want to keep her for something a little bit more magical and special. But the Temperance card is about tempering these body fluids, so bringing them back into balance. And so it's just interesting. I've got the Thoth deck to use for the tarot today, and that's the one that has the Mary the Jewess card in. So what we're going to be looking at is the story of an ancestral echo that's playing into your life. So you're picking an ancestral echo. So I'm going to lay out some cards around a little code that I've created that you can't see very well, but it's talking about yellow bile, black bile, phlegm and blood, and they're linked by temperatures and moistures. So you have hot, dry, cold and wet. And so we're looking at the energies of someone moving through from infancy to their youth, to their adulthood, to their old age, and sometimes they don't get there. I've been playing with this notion because I kind of been told what I needed to do, but it didn't make any sense. I could still struggle to read this, but so we're looking for the story of an ancestor that exists as an echo, not just in your astral realm, but also in your physical realm. It's playing out in your life, and it doesn't really belong to you. So we're going to look at what the solution might be to help you move past it. So did you pick bloodline number 1? So we're going to lay down 4 cards: blood, infancy and air. So here you have the sweat lodge. Now that's interesting in itself because that is hot and wet, and this is the energy of hot and wet. So it's like saying this person emerged in balance, because they don't always. Their youth, so we had the sweat lodge. Their youth was the eagle, which is air. And that's where they should have been moving into the energy of their fires. Their adulthood is hummingbird. And that's when they should have been earthing, and they were moving into emotions. This is like an energy of someone being very slow. I would suggest they're probably phlegmatic. And then witness. Yeah, it's just like coming into the earth, and the sense that I have is never finding their pathway, always being behind a curve. So we're going to add, and then I can read it a bit better. We're going to add 2 cards as a pathway between infancy to youth. We've got one, which is, it's the 9 of Cups, so it's like a dreamer. This is someone who's been a dreamer. From the very beginning, it's like non-action is what I'm getting at the moment. An inability to decide how to act on something. And another 9, 9, 9. It's like someone, I want to say, who never gave up the dreams of kind of cosmic magic. You know, this real sense of the hummingbird is coming across as the frequency of like the little tiny fairies, this belief in the magical world. But this belief somehow led them to never fulfill some kind of potential within them. So now as the eagle strikes down, we've got the Knight of Wands, which is the King of Wands. So absolute fire and the birthing of a sort of emotional language. There's almost a sense of being, I want to say emotionally angry, fiery. Now let's come down between the hummingbird so now we have 5 of Cups and the Ace of Swords. So there's something about how as they moved through, because they were never really part of the world, they never really understood even the idea behind emotions. They didn't understand emotions, and it began to freeze them. It began to disappoint them. But again, there's a frustration around emotions, and the truth of it, it was just disappointing. I need to get the full set of cards down in order for me to then understand the humours, the body fluids behind this. So from the Witness, we have the 9 of Swords and the 4 of Cups. I am really getting this energy of inaction, of being wounded by belief, of having huge trust in the other place through the shields and the realms and into the world of magic that was a natural gift for them. So from birth they absolutely had that very talkative, enthusiastic, risk-taking energy. It's almost like a child, an infant that you would have to watch like a hawk, because they would vanish. They have no sense of danger. Then we have this frequency here, the yellow bile, this choleric, this extrovert energy being somehow suppressed. So I think that the yellow bile, there wasn't enough energy of the choleric to continue. It's like it rushed through through infancy, and when it got to youth, it had trouble fitting in to society as a teenager. And then we move through to black bile with the heart, this melancholy, this sense that emotions never made sense, this freezing. So there was an overproduction of black bile, it seems. And then we come down, and the biggest frequency we have in this is phlegm. So there's too much emotion in this ancestor's life that they just couldn't process. They couldn't find the language to fit their understandings of emotions into the world, and this made them angry and frustrated. This made them very uncomfortable with the truth, and wounded, endlessly wounded, but by spirit in their mind. That's really interesting. So let's get some runes on it. What's the ancestor saying to you? Okay, so myself and humankind. So being phlegmatic is the kind of person this ancestor wanted to reach out and help the world, and yet the world kept hurting them. There's so much Mars energy in this. From childhood there was this wonderful expansive Jupiter Venus frequency of love, this hugely impressive dream world. I almost feel that the dream world was built better than the real world. There's something about the Sweat Lodge being more physically formed than this dome that the eagle in the real world is trying to strike down on. So I'm being given the idea that this wasn't their story originally. It's like an energy that's so caught in the astral that you've inherited as your portal. So we've got the card of man, myself and humankind. They want you to reach out to humankind, but without the anger. To plug yourself into the world, to not only live in inaction without looking at the truth of dreams. Dreams have to be actioned in the real world. We don't come down here to live in the astral. So, et burstum. They're wanting you to burst out. They're wanting you to create an entirely new portal. Because we have onwardness. I was saying burst out, being card 55, is talking about the energy of the 5D world. You need to clean up the astral. I mean, I know that's the story here, but you're cleaning it up because the present is not functioning for you. And this ancestor is bringing you the frequency of the All Rune, the spellboundness, because this is someone, this ancestor was someone who could see through the veil. The bursting out, though, there's something about an energy of some kind of narcissist, parent perhaps, who tries to drive out that energy of your freedom. It's like this is earth grab. You have to grip into the earth. You have to find the frequency. You have to somehow... There's something to do with the black bile. So let me just go underneath and look. Yeah, you've got to deal with there being too much black bile. You're too gripped by what you cannot influence in the world. So you've got that frequency of melancholia, you know, the sense of depression, over analyzing the world around you, which is actually stopping you from connecting to your present. And so what's the response? It's not to clean them out yet, it's to work with them. So Wacken and Oak, they will help you to regrow a new Yggdrasil tree. An Oak, there's a real sense of green man energy with Oak. There's a real sense of Taurus frequency. I'm not saying you have to have Taurus, but you could look at what's in your frequency in Taurus. So there's a sense of always wanting to help others, but you've got too much black bile and phlegm. So you're kind of living in a kind of coldness. And it borders on a kind of movement between both wet and dry energies. Your natural frequency would be cold and wet. I know that sounds a bit strange, but it's in terms of foods that you can eat, because you can look at foods that increase the different frequencies. You need to eat foods that bring more fire to you. Your fire is what's lacking the most, the yellow bile. So, that's reading number 1. I'll pop all the cards back. I'm going to move on to Bloodline story number 2 and see what we get. So, did you pick Ancestral Bloodline Echo number 2? So, I'll give him a shuffle and a rifle. So, this is the story of an ancestor whose presence still echoes in your astral realm and influences your life somehow. So, did you pick number 2? That was interesting. That was very forthright, but on the edge of things. Oh. Anti and cross. So, this is infancy. And this is imbalance. This is being born to achieve something. There's a real sense of grace, of being fated. So, youth, the spiral. It feels like being fated and then like black bile rising over yellow bile. So this energy of melancholic coming in at puberty over that energy of being enthusiastic and talkative and extrovert, being lost in a fog as your DNA developed, as your body grew, as your sexuality. And then Jaguar. You see, Jaguar comes along as someone that doesn't make it into adulthood. Okay, let's just see what we get on old age. Taming of the Wind. It feels like their old age's spirit. Like they didn't have an old age. This is someone that died young. I even want to say there's an energy frequency of suicide, and obviously no one needs to move down that energy, but it's a sense within this story of how having a really fated, wonderful youth and then hitting puberty and just your mind being unbound, being confused, and for this ancestor, I think they took their own life somehow, but we'll see what comes. And I just think it means it's not that you will take your own life. That's not the point of it. It's the fact that it's something that plays on your mind and has done, no matter how old you are, because this is not saying you don't make it to adulthood, but this because their energy carries on in the spirit, in the astral. But there is a real sense that this is an ancestor full of promise and then overwhelmed by melancholia. Melancholia years ago, I think it was melancholia that was called the Swiss disease, like nostalgia, can be so overpowering that it takes your life. I mean, you know, this, maybe it wasn't suicide, maybe they were just so melancholic that they just withered away, because there's something about the spiral is going the wrong way. It's like a ball bearing rolling down the tunnel and being lost. Being lost. So I'm looking for 2 cards for the journey between infancy to... Yeah, this was the Hierophant. Fated for epiphanies. Fated for spirit. Fated... It's everything's falling to the floor. They were a really emotional child. I almost want to say, I don't almost want to say, I'm going to say, the energy that I'm feeling is being fated to have some kind of spiritual life. Like in certain religions, you inherit the job of a parent. So there's something within the genes that says this person was meant to become a holy child. Or they were selected as a holy child, and they wanted their emotional freedom. They understood the suppression of being taken, having your childhood totally and utterly devoted to a spiritual pathway that was chosen for you, not by you. That's the energy that's coming out. That need to rise up, to find their own emotional home, but having that energy of restriction. And it's so funny because Reem and I were talking about the Hierophant last night and about how it always means a spiritual epiphany and not that energy of suppression. But I guess because we're talking about something so long ago, I mean, this is from thousands of years ago. This is like a child born to work in some kind of temple, and it wasn't what the child wanted. They had the energy for this, but it was not the right time in their life. In fact, I would say that their intelligence was vast. I mean, almost the energy of child genius. And then puberty came along with all these emotions swirling somehow, as if the phlegm took over because they were being forced to be so suppressed and peaceful. Yeah, it was the completion of their world. And it's interesting that you have around this card, you have the thought, they're the wrong way around. You have around this card the same 4 markers, the spiritual boundaries being bound in, and there being no way out other than to reach up, just as this card is, to reach up to spirit and be taken, to be taken by spirit as a teenager. Oh. Okay, there's 2 cards, but the second one will be below. So it's victory. This spirit felt to be freed from the bonds of spiritual inheritance was victory. And that changed them. That changed them in the world of spirit into a really profoundly powerful energy frequency that's got a strong, massively strong sense of cardinal earth Capricorn frequency. It's almost like it's such a powerful energy that now, as an echo of the repeat in your life, it's like that phrase where people would say, you got the devil in you. No, you haven't. You've got the truth within you and you're fighting, but you're being suppressed again by the energy of religions. You're not being given your freedom, your spiritual freedom, your truth. Yeah, look, we've got 2-2. There's a healing being offered by this ancestor. Because remember, an ancestor doesn't have to be someone that birthed. This spirit didn't have children, but a sibling will have gone on to have children, and so you're tied into their energy through blood. A frequency that's within your DNA that was in their DNA. That's the hummingbird. If only it would come down. Because that's the tree that it likes to hover around. I'm not going to pay attention. Maybe you'll all see it. Because there's something about this. Maybe you'll see what's ordinarily hidden. You know, Taming of the Wind has got that frequency of putting a net over dogma. Holding the dogma back. And so, they're in spirit. They're in the 5D. They're energy 55. That's come up in both readings now. Changing the frequency of the astral is somehow linked to the 5D. And so this is the journey of this energy through spirit. This card also came out before. This is to be helped to rise, to bring up your fires, because what's missing from you is fire. You have very weakened, somehow, yellow bile, because the black bile has been suppressive. The earth frequency has been suppressive, and you need the air energy, the wind, the spirit, the sanguine within your blood to increase so that the fires can come. I just need to put those cards on. There's a little bit of a wind blowing me raw runes. So we need one more card. Oh, well, there we go. And it landed exactly where it was meant to land. Like that. This is a swift journey. This connection can happen quickly. This is movement. I almost want to say this journey happens in the eclipse. It's fluidity. There's Mercury. There's something about they're showing me Mercury as both sulfur and as Mercury and as mutable. The energy of to be mutable. This change can be brought upon you in the eclipse tunnel. In the eclipse tunnel. Revelations coming. So, with the runes, we're going to ask... Oh! What's the spirit trying to bring you? So, the spirit is trying to unbind you. This is Wendhorn. This is to throw off all the energies. The spirit has got Ophalagu. When to unbind you and to show you how their life has mirrored your life. How energies in their frequency, even though they died so young and you didn't, has still matched, and they're wanting you to break free of the frequency that was holding you back. And then we have Ur, to be strong, to be resilient, to become untamable, to not be bound by these dogmas that stare down at you from all angles. And then it ends with the void, the Gununga gap. They're giving you this frequency of you being able to start in balance, because the way the humours are drawn is in a diamond shape. So they're going to come to you in this eclipse tunnel, this Ianus Neptunus, because that's an ancestral eclipse tunnel, and they're going to guide you to release yourself from old energies that have had you trapped. Sorry, I just put that in the wrong way round. That have had you trapped. They're going to help to rebirth you, and then they're going to leave your astral, because all the while they're there, they're giving you this energy because it needs to be broken. It can't just go away. It can't just be swept clean. It has to be identified as a particular cosmic dust in the astral, and it has to be, bromed. It has to be butcher's scrubbed. It has to be cleaned. It has to give a new frequency to course through your blood. So, let's move on to the next one. So, did you pick story number... That card's really bent. Did you pick story number 3? Did you pick Blood Ancestral Songline number 3? Did you pick number 3? I had to go and answer the gate because my hosts were coming to check something for me. So did you pick number 3? I started doing it earlier, but it's been over an hour and I can't settle back into number 3's energy now. So we're looking at an ancestor, their life story, and how it affects you today, both in your waking world and in the astral. And that's the key. That's interesting. Middle world earth frequency in air, coming in with too much black bile for their early. It's like coming in with melancholia, being a very unhappy infant. And then fire area, the yellow bile, you've got the energy of phlegm. To bursting emotionally, almost having too many emotions. We've got 366 here. And then adulthood. Ooh, air again. This is spiritual epiphany time. And then old age. Heart of the Sky is very much cosmic energy. This feels like someone who had a major spiritual epiphany in their adult life. So coming into the world full of melancholy, as I say, a really, I almost want to say like an over-analytical infancy. Sort of the energy of a complete introvert, or everything within, and then hitting teenage years and just emotions from puberty exploding and kind of doing your head in, doing their head in, but it will have done your head in as well. So it's like it's like the energy of the emotions guaranteed that the introversion stayed there. Even though the emotions burst through, they put out your fires, or they put out this ancestor's fires. So this person goes through with all this black bile and then suppression through phlegm of the yellow bile, and then somehow in adulthood it's almost like the energy is switched. The black bile was suppressed. It's almost like more and more sanguine. It's like having an epiphany and then they couldn't stop talking about it. I almost want to say that there was a complete energetic reversal that took place. So from being like a silent, unspeaking person to someone that just couldn't stop, but there's something domineering about the epiphany. So I feel like I hadn't started shuffling. It was the Eight of Cups, and that just doesn't feel as though that's the energy that this starts with. So the journey from childhood. The journey from childhood. There we go. Yeah, look, it's very spiritual. I want to say, I feel like this ancestor was born in an eclipse tunnel for divine purpose, because we've got 3, 6, 3, 9. This is a really divine frequency. It's interesting. It's kind of talking about how being born into a very religious community, no, that's not what it is. It's being born into a completely irreligious community, but having a sense of. That's really interesting, and that's what made them introvert. It's seeing, understanding. And that was a depression that no one else could see. Because even when the epiphany comes, it's like you don't open your eyes. You don't see. Because there's something about the energy of this ancestor. They never saw their own true spiritual truth. They kind of saw a spiritual truth. That's very interesting. So what's the journey then? From Rainmaker, from youth to adulthood, to this moment when you come out of yourself. So the rain, the phlegm, overpowered. So yeah, the youth, and then as it came out of youth, fires broke through the emotion. A passion for a spiritual pathway took hold. And it was like a tower moment. It was like the fuel, because I'm seeing this. The fuel was inevitably to be lit. I want to say that this person feels very much like this ancestor almost created a community, a religious community. And there is a real strong sense of moving to America, North America, I mean. the energy of setting up, they're saying to me like a blind council, like setting up in adulthood a religious zealousy that was as oppressive as their own childhood. Such powerful beliefs that were fired up, burnt. It's almost like the spirit world has tried to clean this astral damage before. This goes back further than the ancestor. It's someone else's, and it was a spark in the astral palace that couldn't be stopped. There's something about not false prayer, but not even false prophet, but there's some energy of what this community through this ancestor laid down. This ancestor had leader qualities, and leader qualities are that sort of yellow bile, and yet the energy of yellow bile was being suppressed by the community that they grew up in, an irreligious community, and they wanted a much more religious spiritual community, and yet the spiritual community they built was in itself oppressive to others. It's like a mirror flipped, a page turned, and everything was in reverse. So you have, from the council going into adulthood, this energy, and this is all fire. We've gone from, it's like the yellow bile appears and the yellow bile burns through everything, and the yellow bile suppresses, the yellow bile doesn't allow. And there's something about, because you've got 2442, this mirror in this energy of the ancestor, what was an emotional outburst at puberty becoming something that was used as the fires, the righteousness to suppress another, to suppress others in a community that they set up, to hold down, to almost burn people in choleric. And then this heart of sky is almost, it's almost like crowning yourself God, but that's not what I mean. It's like they became a frequency that could not be questioned. They became zero frequency. They became, you know, a fool in many ways, because they grew bigger than their boots. They stopped. The phlegm that suppressed the yellow bile, the fires, couldn't suppress the fires, and eventually it's that false frequency, the mirrored frequency, becoming something, allowing adulation of them rather than adulation of spirit. They only open their eyes properly to spirit when they were the spirit somehow. That's what we wanted. So we have this energy of the Four of Swords, of healing, from a new beginning to heal the trapped energies. But there's something unbalanced about this healing because it's suppressive. It's not a true healing. So that's an energy in your astral. It's an energy that's playing out in your life. It's almost, it's Messiah complex in many ways, and no one needs that. So, what does the ancestor want to say to you? What does the ancestor want to say to you? What does the ancestor want to say to you? So we have tear, we have smelt. And we have world serpent, yor. So what do they want to say to you? They want to say that they want you to change your destiny. There's something about Tir Yor, they're drawing my attention to it as being made of the same, like the same DNA, made of the same, and yet different. You have a different destiny, and it's not, it's to calm the fires. Somehow you've got to connect with your phlegm, because there's no phlegm here. And phlegm is to come to peace with yourself, to be laid back. There's something incredibly fiery, divine rage almost. Kind of hearing the frequency of another's beliefs and just like that fueling an anger within you. Oh, that's a bit of a big pile. I think we're going to have to do a Cindy drop. No, there we go. So, you're on a journey to nowhere on the current path. You're on a journey to nowhere. You're on a... It's like this static 12 frequency, and it is 6-6. This static energy is the fires, the raging righteousness that is triggered within you because of this ancestor story. It's really fascinating. And you're journeying, you've been journeying towards, because of their fieriness in the astral, their over-energizing yellow bile, this choleric, goal and ambitious leader frequency has led you down a spiritual cul-de-sac to the wrong destiny point. And this ancestor needs you to change it. And it ends with hell. So hell is the goddess Hel. And just as this is the realm of the light elves, this is the realm of the dark elves as much as anything else. It's very Svartalhamir, but it's also the space where the unrighteous, it's like they're stuck in hell. They're stuck in hell, in the astral and in the earth, because they didn't acknowledge their own faults somehow. And so you have to return them to the light from hell. They believed the whole time that they were destined for the light, for the heart of sky. But somehow the veil in the astral is blocking them. Somewhere in your astral realm there must be this spirit, and there must be a doorway that needs to be opened. How do you open the doorway in the astral? How do you open the doorway in the astral? How do you open the doorway in the astral? How do you open the doorway in the astral? How do you open the doorway? Oh, that's really interesting. Look, The cards are stood up. And this one is Ur. This is to be free. And then this, these four, oh, interesting. So, generosity, turn dark, and emotional bleed. I'll bring the camera back up now. So, what do you need to do? You need to find that spot in the astral. You're looking in your dreams for somewhere dark in the astral. It could be inside cupboards. It could be in a room you've never opened. But you have to go in. And as you open the door, there's going to be the most enormous force. This energy, this rainmaker kind of toxic phlegm is coming at you in the astral. And what's interesting is that these two came out upside down. And that's Ophalagu and Towardness. This is, you do not match this ancestor. You are not the match of the ancestor. The ancestor's righteous energy in the astral has been playing into your psyche. And this Towardness, the future briars, the Skald energy that's here, it's not your future. Their future got them stuck. Their future has them hiding in the astral because in spirit they now know that their Messiah complex was wrong, and yet they've left so much of the fires of the yellow bile everywhere. You need to find them and you need to tell them to piss off, really, is what is big. But you need to open that cupboard on them, and it isn't about being kindness. This ancestor didn't show kindness to others, and that's been what's left a fragment of their soul there, stressing other people out. It's time to push through. It's time for you to own the space and not be overwhelmed by their yellow bile, their fires. It's like hell and brimstone talking, and yet they're the one in hell. I'm like, hell's a good place, but in their mind, they don't know how to get out of hell. And you can go down into this dark room, cupboard space in the astral, open the door, let all of that yellow phlegm, the emotional phlegm, and the yellow bile, quell it all down. They've got to be brought back to the fact that they're leaving an uncomfortable energy in the blood of the ancestors, and you might just have to shove them into the light. I'm not saying it's an easy thing. Anyway, that's story number 3, and I've got to pause again, but I'll be back in a moment with number 4. So, I'm back again. Reem and Cindy were talking to me, and I was very hungry and thirsty. Oh, I've left my water indoors. I'll get it after 4. Did you pick Blood Story, Blood Echo number 4? So, we're looking at the story of an ancestor who's left an echo in your blood in the physical, but they've also left an energy, beloved child. That came up recently in a little reading I did for Cindy. Maybe you picked this one, Cindy. I did just talk about you at the beginning. So, they've left an energy in your ancestral palace, the place you go through. It was a place they used to go through, and they've left an energy there that needs cleaning up. So, this is their story in their humours. So we begin with blood at birth, rattle, space, babyishness. Do you know what I wanted to say? There's something of the child. So now we're looking at yellow bile, fire, youthfulness. Yellow bile. You see, the rattle is space, but it's kind of space in air, and earth. Earth and air are opposite each other, black bile and blood. This thunder, again, it feels like air. You're coming in very sanguine, talkative. Not you, I mean the ancestor. But it will be affecting you. It will be giving you this frequency. Adulthood for this. Oh, look, thunder and lightning. Lightning is like yellow bile. This is hot energy that should have been there at birth. It's like there's too much air, way too much, too many risks, and then it ends the old age of this ancestor with the sweat lodge, which is about hot and wet. And they didn't start hot and wet. They really started, I kind of want to say hot and dry, or wet and cold. Interesting. So the end of their life was like bringing themselves into balance. I mean, it really is balance, but it feels like this was an energy that was just too dominant. Too dominant. And it's an energy of this there's a kind of know-allness about it. There's a danger to this energy. There's a troublemaker in this energy. There's ambition, there's push, there's drive, and it's bringing that energy into you. So Prince of Cups, coming into the space of birth as an infant. I can't take those because there's 4 and they all fell. Coming into infancy with that sanguine thrill. This is our old before its time almost. 5 of 5 of Wands. That's like, it's like they created the thunder. They create the disturbances. This is a mover and a shaker. This is a child who, it's almost like emotions weren't their scene yet. There's a real suppression of phlegm. There's a suppression of the ability to see others. There's a selfish energy to this frequency. We've got the moon. So they get into youth with all this thunder. But thunder brings rain. Thunder brings that phlegm. It's almost like there's this energy of the unintended law of consequences. They didn't know what they were doing with the moon. And the moon moves water, the moon moves phlegm. And then we have the 3 of Cups. This abundance, it's almost like no ability to see emotions. Almost not caring enough about the emotions that are flowing all around them, and almost retracting into this. This is hot energy. This is the space between their infancy and their youth, and yet this is adult. This is like a great big child that couldn't move on because they couldn't process the phlegm, the water, the emotions. So what else, please? You see, I've got one at the moment, which is the Seven of Swords, which is Moon in Aquarius. That fixed. They just were so fixed, and they needed a way out. They needed a way out, and the way out was emotions. Moon again. They can't look at the moon. It's sort of how are they going to get to this sweat lodge then? Oh, that's really interesting. They actually fell in love late. Interesting. 7 and 2 is a 9. And this is a 9. The 5 and the 4. So they just couldn't. They had no ability to understand. They were so full of fiery hot air, so inebriated with the exuberance of their own verbosity, which was actually said of Churchill, I believe, because he was a bit inebriated with the exuberance of his own verbosity. He was one of those, it didn't matter what you said to him, he was always right and rude. And that's an energy that's about this, but something bowls this ancestor over really late in life. I kind of want to ask other questions, you know. It feels like you wouldn't touch this person with a barge pole because they're a mover and a shaker. They're not to be trusted. And yet someone poured love into them at some point, and they understood the message back, and suddenly they fitted the sweat lodge. This card stuck. It was an old soul. It was a destined 6 of Cups frequency. So I'm assuming that's what they're trying to bring you, is they're trying to create the space in your life, late in life, for your soulmate to come in. Sun in Scorpio, a really hot, passionate energy. Oi! Yeah, look, they're manifesting it. They're bringing to you the Magus, the energy of soulmates. They're manifesting the return of a soulmate. So, and that's their story. They found a soulmate, and it manifested space within them to become in balance, to no longer be just one thing. So what have we got? Earth Magian. They are trying to get you to increase the levels of your black bile. They're trying to bring up the energy of melancholy because you don't have it. You've got this frequency that they had of being fiery and self-important and a mover and a shaker and a creator of thunder and lightning, poking, storming through, not caring. And they want you to bring up that energy of the power to just analyze yourself, have a moment where you see your story and feel a kind of despair moment to it. Oof, that was a bit of a big spillage, but let's look. Oh, it's so beautiful. So, witchcraft. Earth Magian, witchcraft. They're trying to teach you how to connect to the magic that's within you. This is like double the magic of energy. This is this. You've always had that magical power, but it's been abused. It's been selfish. So you've got to bring your consciousness down and connect with your Earth Magian in to let the sap rise through you, to let a sexual desire rise through you, to seek the soulmate, to manifest the soulmate is what's coming through. That's what they're trying to bring. And you've got Jena. This is to be entwined in a new energy. It's very much this. It's the energy of... There's something about this, because it's 14 frequency, that's coming from a space way outside of normal parameters. Oh, to be a mirrored energy, to be a mirrored soul, this is what they're trying to bring towards you. And then it ends with the 2 cards to smelt the heartache. That the fires need to be smelted, the passions that push you forwards with their frequency, not your own, is what makes your heart ache. Because it's the drives within you, the passions within you, are not allowing you to connect properly with another, but it comes late in life. So that's number 4, and I shall be back after 4 with 5. Did you pick Ancestral Blood Echo number 5? I can hear the hummingbird. There. How magical is that? The beauty way. A sacrifice is being made for the beauty way. So, there's truth coming, horns. So we're looking at the frequency of an ancestor that's coursing through your blood, but has also left a very big mark in the astral where they used to access their dreams, and how it's resonating in you and becoming an echo. Followed by the medicine wheel. So their birth was love, was air in air. They were born to love. And their fires, the fire, the choleric, was the medicine. That's very clear. I can't believe the hummingbird just came out. Both behind in the tree. I hope you could see it. I can't see the screen properly, it's so bright. But the hummingbird is here for this one. This is an energy of love. Adulthood for them was a soul retrieval. The heart was something they were searching for, and they weren't able to find it until adulthood. And then their old age was just seeing everything. The seer, a divine understanding. This is lovely energy, really beautiful energy. So let's dig in. I had to change the camera angle, I had to move round. And had we not done that, we might not have witnessed the hummingbird coming in with the hummingbird card. That's just beautiful. So we're looking at their journey from infancy infancy to youthfulness, puberty. So we have the High Priestess and the King of Wands. The High Priestess is air energy in this. They were nourished, they were loved as a child, they were, as an infant, as a child, as a young boy or girl. This, I kind of, there's some energy about being somehow sickly as a child and just so much love being poured into them. And puberty was medicine. So we've got the Hermit and the Three of Swords. An inner light. The fires, it's like being born in this talkative, enthusiastic, social, active energy, and yet there was something, you see, that sickly child energy is like something, I want to say, that was put on them through an over love. They had more, their fires, their inner light was true. It's come at the right moment. The yellow bile, the moving forwards, the ambitions of this ancestor came into reality as they went through puberty. They understood. And yet, this heartache of being loved too much almost meant that there's something about the energy of coming through puberty and moving into adulthood, and no love was ever as profound and as powerful as the love that their parents, their family, their community put through them. So it meant that when they moved into adulthood, they were lost. They were seeking how to unlock the truth of their heart. And this caused a melancholy. This caused a bile. This is the most perfect example of moving through the energies, but it still is unbalanced. Even though the first two parts of their life were completely balanced. I mean, can you have too much love? Can too much love lock your heart away that no one else can find access to your heart? Prince of Discs. This is, again, it's the right energy at the right time. And then the change. There's real wisdom. This is like the child that had it all, but almost had too much. And that locked away somehow their ability to feel love from anyone else. And that changes when... That's interesting because this is 13. And this is 13. That energy of needing to unlock the heart, to bring the water. So somehow emotions, it's like they didn't know how to make their own emotions. Ah, that's it. This soul had such love that they didn't know how to create love for themselves. And they needed others to love them throughout their life. And it wasn't until old age that they understood that too much love can hurt. I find that a really weird idea, but I get it. In old age, they were able to understand and adjust and come to some sort of peace. And yet, they never were able to give their heart to another because they didn't know how. Is this the energy of someone that never loved? Is this the energy of someone that never loved? It is. There's no cups. It's almost cerebral, mental stimulation that they required. So, what's the message that they're trying to bring you? What's the understanding? Because they've left this energy of having too much love, of not being able to process a love for yourself. It's self-love somehow. They're bringing you into your destiny. The Jormungandir, the world serpent. They're bringing you, even in the astral, they're trying to lead you to self-love so that you can stop needing others to love you. What else? You need to burst out in the astral. 55. This keeps coming up a lot, this energy of 55 in these readings. This need to make your fifth dimensional astral understanding match your three-dimensional understanding of your physical existence. And if you can break out of the need to be loved, you get the void will open. A brand new frequency will open in the astral and in your bloodstream. A new understanding of you in the sacral. And it's completed with win, bliss, comfort. I'm just going to ask, what do you need to do? What do you need to do? You need to weather. You need to weather emotions. You need to put yourself in your own emotions. You need to read your emotions rather than others. So when you feel anxious, don't seek the solution in another. Don't look for a hug and a cuddle. We all need hugs and cuddles. But you need to learn to cuddle yourself. You need to weather your own frequency. Because this is interesting. We're getting 369 really resonating through this frequency of the whole reading. Static 12, trapped, caught, needing things, needing others, needing all the time, needing. And then these two are upside down, and it's Hod and it's Hangtru. So this is another divine 9. So you can't see. You're blind to the fact that your needs for love are static. They're holding you back. You need to see how to love yourself. And you're seeking wisdom in the astral. It's almost like this ancestor is a hummingbird. This ancestor understands, because it's a seer, it's the divine 9 seer. It's trying to teach you to adjust your self-love. I'm sensing that even in the dream world, you're seeking the ancestor, to resolve this issue. And the ancestor is saying, you have to retrieve your own soul. You have to be able to find a way to hug yourself, to appease your desires, your needs. You have to find the flow in these frequencies. And almost, you need to meet this ancestor. I'm being shown the ancestor as a needy child. You're gonna have to dream the needy child, and you're gonna have to withhold your love from the needy child, because the needy child is them, but it's also an echo in your blood. So that's number 5. Did you pick Ancestor Bloodline Echo number 6? So we're looking at the energy of an ancestor story that's currently in your blood, flowing through, influencing you, but they've also left a massive energy frequency of themselves in the astral portal that they used to use, but you're using now. It's an ancestral portal. I need a sip of water. So, their birth, their infancy, their blood. Old before their time. They've got autumnal energy at birth. They've got too much black bulk, too much melancholia. That's a theme that sometimes souls come in with a kind of inherent depression. I'll pick that one up in a sec. This is feeling very much like the energy of the reading I did by the fire of an ancestor who couldn't understand this was an echo of somebody else's echo, and it forced them into behaving in a wild way that they couldn't understand. And we've got again the same energy of needing to retrieve a soul. This is needing to put to bed a double echo. This is really interesting. What I'm going to do is, that was so strange. Clearing the space is the medicine. I haven't taken 2 cards before, but I'm taking them right now. Clearing the space on echo. Now what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to place another card over each. I want the original story. I don't want this ancestor that's caught with you. I want the original ancestor. Why is the original ancestor? Why did they leave this sanguine, no, this melancholic birth frequency? Okay, they came into life angry, fiery. They were hot and wet. Hot and wet. This feels like a frequency geographically triggered by somewhere humid. I'm not taking Pachamama, but we have the Time Master. We're going right back to a very early part of time. This is an old story that's been played out by many ancestors, and it should be returned to the annals of time It's just a ghost. It's just an energy that shouldn't be there anymore. And what was their old age? You see, the Pachamama card is coming out as an Earth Keeper, an Earth Magian frequency. There's something about this somehow being linked, I don't know how to express it, but through the veil. Being lost through the veil. Interesting. So, old before their time, because originally this is giving me the energy of Muspelheimr, of a kind of Ragnarok frequency that somehow distorted the timelines of future generations, creating an energy frequency of a need to do something that wasn't necessary, and how the souls of many ancestors are caught in the astral realm as kind of static, foggy ghosts. They've moved on, but there's an energy left in the astral. And making space was the medicine. And then Earth Magian, thyness. It's almost like you've got to disconnect absolutely entirely from the whole thing. It's not your story. It's an ancient story. It feels like it's the oldest of all of them. It's anger is what I'm getting. And it's funny because, as I've said, it's anger I'm getting. I'm seeing the Ace of Cups. So it's like a refusal to witness love. Like the emotions infuriate. It's got a sense of divine rage to it, but it's far too toxic. It's like just coming in with so much bravado that you are unable to flow through the space of time that they were living in. This original frequency, I keep saying you, it's a habit but this very first story was about a distortion in time. You know, the Knight of Cups and the Ace of Cups, it's the beginning and the end of all love being distorted by being in the physical. Burning away, steaming off the emotions, plunging into the fires. Right now we've got 3. So moving from the fractures in time, it's been expansive over and over again. 9 of Cups, more emotion. The Empress, yet again, more emotion. I don't know where I can get that so you can see it. It's very difficult. The sun's moving so fast that I can't get that in. But the Empress, 3 and 9. And the Hierophant. The energy I'm getting from this is just over and over again a rejection of love that's been playing out through generations and generations. Having love around you and refusing to look at it. So we're adding more and more water. There's so much phlegm, energy, water, the need to be peaceful, the need to sympathize with the emotions of others, that's been overridden by an energy of fire, of yellow bile, of like an over self-worth. So how do we move through adulthood? How did this original story and then the echo and then you too feeling this emotion, how did that story move into old age? How did that story move into old age? Interesting, it didn't. Oh, the Hanged Man and the Hermit. This was not an energy that could move forward. It was a stuck energy. So the original story of this energy is fraying time and becoming stuck because of an unwillingness to accept the frequency of emotions. It's almost like raw magician energy. You can create, and yet the emotions are merely just another one of the elements for creating your own pathway without it actually lighting your way in the earth. I feel like this original story was so ancient that it may not even have been here on earth. This is an archetypal energy that needed snuffing out. But it was such a profound energy that frayed time that it's been scattered across many solar systems. So, from old age to death, I guess is what we're looking at here, because they're already dead. So their old age is death. Their winter never arrived. It got stuck in autumn. Earthkeeper, Knight of Discs, and the Four of Wands, which is a completion. This was an energy that never found its completion. It's very much toxic aggression. It doesn't matter how much love, it will keep burning everything back. So, it's a bit of a strong story at the very end. What needs to happen? It's Kuzma, it's the moon. Sorry about this inability to show you my runes in the sunshine. Nearly. Kuzma. You need to recognize anger. You need to own anger. It's 39, it's 12. It's a frequency of time being stopped and a pattern being repeated over and over again. And it's time to move into Perth. This is Empress energy. It was the Empress energy before that led to a kind of selfish desire to create that caused an ending. It's like witnessing creativity and being furious by it because you didn't create it or they didn't create it. This original frequency, there's a jealousy edge to this energy. So what do you need to do? You need to surge out. You need to feel the fruits of the pear tree. Oh, there we go. So, you need to bleed this out. We have Lecce and we have Wendhorn. Lecce and Wendhorn. You need to let the anger bleed out. You need to recognize anger as an emotion, a fiery emotion, but as an emotion nonetheless. And you need to recognize this as toxic emotions, toxic anger that burns other people, because that's what keeps fracturing time, the repeat of that energy. And you need to unbind yourself from it, Wendhorn. And then I can see this top card wanted to be pulled. It's Edel. This is your legacy. Your original birthright is not this energy. This energy is ancient. It's a ghost. It needs to go. It serves no purpose in life moving forwards. And you can do that in the astral. You can recognize, you'll probably experience dreams that involve anger, and you need to be the phlegm. You need to almost wrap this anger up in phlegm. Phlegm's an amazing liquid within our body. It's clear until there's something toxic, and it envelops itself over the toxicity, and it becomes yellow or green, and then it can remove it. It can suffocate this energy. Somehow you need to go from this energy of fire to this energy of spirit, of an epiphany, to clear up this energy that's so ancient. This is like fixing something toxic in generation after generation. So that's all 6, and the sun has given up on us now, and I've been moving the table constantly, but I think that this one is about something very dark and shadowy that echoes throughout the cosmos and doesn't have any place now. You know, toxic aggression is dying. It will kick out and fight to begin with, but it doesn't have a place in the next cycle of the future. And so we need to clear that out of our house and out of our lives and out of our blood. Hot-blooded, you know, it's there. Don't be hot-blooded. Be more phlegmy. So, Wassail Beautiful People, thank you for watching, and I'll be back very, very soon, probably tomorrow, with something else. Wassail.